Hello, friends. What if I told you that the Colosseum, the grand arena of Rome, the stage of gladiators and wild beasts, once became a sea, that waves lapped against marble, miniature ships clashed in watery combat, and Rome's citizens sat spellbound as history's most extraordinary spectacle unfolded? It sounds like fantasy, but it wasn't. For a brief, glittering moment, the Colosseum became an ocean. The year was around 80 CE. The Colosseum, or Flavian Amphitheater, had just been completed under Emperor Titus. The Romans, masters of engineering and obsessed with outdoing themselves, wanted to inaugurate it with a spectacle unlike any seen before. Bread and circuses, after all, were the fuel that kept the Roman people loyal. And so, not content with gladiators and hunts, they decided to restage the great naval battles of Rome's past, inside the Colosseum itself. But how could they possibly flood a building of stone and sand? The Romans, ever inventive, had an answer. A network of channels and aqueducts redirected water into the arena. Imagine thousands of gallons pouring into the great oval, filling it like a giant basin. The flat wooden floor that usually covered the hypogeum, the underground chambers of the Colosseum, was removed, leaving a hollow cavity that could be flooded. Then, as the citizens roared with anticipation, ships sailed in. They weren't enormous war galleys, those wouldn't fit, but scaled-down vessels manned by prisoners or enslaved men, forced to reenact famous battles. The Roman crowd cheered as triremes clashed, as sailors fell into the water, as waves churned against the very walls of the Colosseum. It was theater, war, and engineering rolled into one dazzling display of imperial might. But if the Romans managed to pull this off, why didn't it continue? Why don't we hear of naval battles being staged regularly in the Colosseum? The answer lies in practicality. The flooding of the Colosseum was an engineering marvel, but also a logistical nightmare. Filling the amphitheater required enormous amounts of water, diverted from aqueducts that also supplied Rome's fountains and baths. Draining it afterward was equally complicated. And as the years went on, the hypogeum, those intricate underground chambers, was constructed. These passageways housed elevators, trapdoors, cages for animals, and the machinery that made the gladiatorial game so thrilling. Once built, the hypogeum made flooding impossible. The Colosseum had chosen land spectacles over watery ones. Still, the fact that it was ever done at all speaks volumes about Roman ambition. To the emperors, the Colosseum was not merely an arena. It was a canvas on which they painted their power. By flooding it, they proclaimed, "Not even the seas are beyond Rome's control. We command land and water alike." The people, dazzled, believed it. For a few shimmering afternoons, the impossible seemed real. The city at the heart of the empire could conjure oceans from stone, wars from theater, and empires from spectacle. For a moment, Rome turned stone into sea, and like all seas, it receded. What remains is the echo. A reminder that empires are not only built on conquests and laws, but also on the dreams they inspire, however fleeting. In the end, the flooded Colosseum was less about war and more about wonder, the enduring human hunger to make the impossible real.